What actually and originally brought you to East Carolina University, that is ECU?
It was totally random, interestingly. Was planning to come to the US for school from Nigeria, and it was totally random. I had applied to 11 schools.
What were the biggest challenges that you faced when you initially came here?
It's hard moving to a new place halfway across the world, not knowing anyone. But I think one of the things we've tried doing here has been to create a community.
What is the one piece of advice you would like to give that someone would give you when you initially came here?
Just being able to stay curious,
So, are they still trying to raise the funds to continue?
not. But I mean, in the time I've been here, I've heard about solar farms and all of those things, which is a whole different thing too. But as far as the crypto mining facility,
Right, when we talk about cryptocurrency, there are a lot of people they don't know. I mean, everyone knows it is a digital currency, so they don't know where it is, how it is mined. And way before, back then in India, when I was learning about cryptocurrency, so my dad is into stock markets from past 20 years. So yeah, that's why I came into the market. So we're talking about radio. So you're a radio host, and being a radio host, what do you feel that this local radio podcast, how much scope they have in today's world of social media? Hello, I am Pranali Shashank and welcome to my show Visionary Minds. So let's dive into today's conversation. Today's visionary mind is Mr. Victor Ihuka, who wears many hats like researcher, a soccer supporter, a community leader, and also a graduate student. We welcome you, Victor.
thank you. I'm excited, man. This is a big deal. So,
My first question to you is which role describes you the best for today?
oh man, that's a very interesting question. Which role describes me best? I'd say community leader. Yeah, I'd say community leader just because this weekend I've been up to a bunch of things. We had a radio show, we had the podcast recording, and then went and cheered for Greenville United, the soccer team in town. And then I played in church today, this morning. So it's just all about community. So yeah, community leader.
That is great. You're always occupied. What actually and originally brought you to East Carolina University, that is ECU?
Well, that's what I ask myself every day. I'm kidding. But yeah, it was totally random, interestingly. Was planning to come to the US for school from Nigeria, and it was totally random. I had applied to 11 schools across the US. I'm sure, I don't know if you would know this, but if you haven't been to the US, you don't have a sense of where anything is or where any of the states are located. So I had applied to 11 universities. I applied to schools in South Dakota. I was accepted to schools in like Colorado, Boulder, in Greensboro, Georgia, Macomb in Illinois, but I had gotten some funding. So I had connected with a professor here at ECU. And I got some funding, some GA, graduate assistantship, and that was the only reason. So it made sense to follow the money. So I came here in the fall of 2022 for a master's degree in geography. So the rest they say is history. That was my first master's. But
Well, congratulations to you on your degrees. And you said about masters in geography. So, before your masters in geography, tell me something about your upbringing and the prior studies to that.
so I'm actually a preacher's kid. Yeah, my parents are ministers. They are Pentecostal church ministers. So I grew up conservative, Christian, all of those kind of things, which I think shaped my upbringing a lot. My mom is a nurse. We are five in number. My older sister is a nurse. So I had this service is a big part of my upbringing, and I had gone to school as a first generation college student. So I studied environmental management in my undergrad. Got my bachelor's in environmental management back in Nigeria, and the challenge came up to sort of try and come to the US for graduate school. So I took it.
Parents and your family may be proud of you.
Well, I hope they are.
They are indeed.
Yeah, they
So,
are actually. Yeah, they are.
so what were the biggest challenges that you faced when you initially came here?
Oof. I mean, a number of them. It's always hard moving to a new place halfway across the world, not knowing anyone. But I think one of the things we've tried doing here has been to create a community where international students can feel welcome, especially for those early parts of their moving down to this place. So, I remember when I came down to Raleigh, I flew from Lagos in Nigeria to London, and then from London to Raleigh. Um, Interestingly, Nelson, who I think my man Shashank would know, Nelson was in the geography program at the time, so I had connected with him. So he actually came down to Raleigh to pick me up from the airport, and I lived the first couple of days with another international student from Ivory Coast who actually lived a couple blocks down here at the time at the quarter deck. So the first couple of nights when I first came down here, I lived at the quarter deck. So having those opportunities was such a big deal. So it's a tradition we've continued with. So I've met folks here who I started talking to while they were back in their home countries, because we always try to create that community. In that time, I've served on the student government as the director of international student affairs. So part of that was trying to help, whether it's with accommodation, whether it's with transportation, because sometimes there are some international students that walked, like they walked to the social security office, because you need to get a bank account, you need to get social security number, you need to do all of those things. So I'd say transportation, accommodation obviously is the big one. Transportation is also another big one. And the accommodation issue is sort of tricky because, here you need certain documents to secure accommodation, and then you need a guarantor, and then you need money. So all of those things. But I think so far it's been not too terrible with the community. Yeah.
Well, you have gone through a lot.
Yeah, that well, haven't we all? But yeah.
So, if anyone from anywhere around the globe wants to come to United States, so you have faced these all problems when you initially came here, and then if someone else is coming around the world to the states, how can they seek help?
I think honestly I can only speak for ECU. I'd say to reach out to maybe their equivalent of the Office of Global Affairs. And I say that because that's a surefire way, because, the Office of Global Affairs handles the paperwork and all of that for international students. So they have a directory of sorts, or they know who to reach out to. So I've had them reach out every time there's an international student. They email me or copy Dr. Ziga or any of the International Student Association executives to reach out. So I think that would be a surefire way. Something else I've seen people do is to
So you say that if someone is coming to US and they need a help related to social security numbers or account opening or like rights and everything, yeah, these basic things, when initially a person comes, he is having so many questions in his head that how I am going to manage once I land up into United States. So yeah.
So I guess that's what I said earlier. It's sort of case specific in the sense of coming to the United States is different from coming to ECU, East Carolina University, which is, the school we attend, right? So that's what I'm saying. If they are coming for school, it would be helpful for them to reach out to their equivalent of an Office of Global Affairs. So some universities have an Office of International Student Services. Some universities have an Office of whatever it's called that's in charge of, international students and scholars and all of that sorts. So in the case of ECU, it's the Office or ECU Office of Global Affairs. So which is what I'm more conversant with, if that makes sense. So as far as people coming to the US in general, oh, I couldn't tell you, but I came here for school, so sort of.
Probably Office of Global Affairs help us in these all things.
Well, for students, because that's their mandate, yeah, for students that come to ECU or scholars coming to ECU, yeah.
Your master's in public administration, and before that you was a master of science in geography. So you have two master's degrees. Congratulations on that. So what did make you do that transition from masters of geography to that of public administration?
So this is ironic because I didn't want to do a PhD. That's why I say it's ironic. And it's also ironic because I'm starting a PhD in the fall. So I didn't want to do a PhD at the time. So I figured, and I was looking for a job. But, as international students, you need to be in status to be able to find a job. So my thinking at the time was if I could stay in school and then hunt for jobs. But I mean, that didn't work out. I mean, the job market right now is crazy. So it kind of makes sense. And then naturally too, the other part of it is I love learning. I love trying to figure out how the world works. Um, and I don't like maths. I don't like, all the hard sciences, So, and then I wanted to, I think much more importantly, I wanted to play to my strengths. So the idea for me was if I could bet on my strengths, and just sort of grow it, I could reach whatever heights I wanted to versus try and make up for the things you don't have the strengths for. So that was one of the reasons too. And I figured, and then I'm very good friends with the chancellor at ECU, and he actually recommended me to the MPA program because he thought we had a couple things in common, and he had an MPA. In fact, he jokes around that maybe because I'm following his footsteps, I could be a chancellor one day. So sometimes he calls me Chancellor Victor, but I don't think. Yeah. Well, that's too much work, to be honest. That's too much work. But yeah, I really love learning. I really love figuring out how the world works. And I've learned a lot in that program. I've learned a lot about policy. I've learned a lot about economic development, human resource management, program evaluation, and all of those things. So, I mean, it's one of the things I'm fascinated by learning. Yeah.
Just now you said you have learnt about the economic development. So what does your work with ECU Office of Research Development involve?
So over the past 1 year, I've been working as a research assistant at the Office of Research, Economic Development and Engagement. Mostly as an understudy of sorts. Trying to learn. So the way the office is structured here, there is an Office of Research Development. In the general office, there is an Office of Licensing and Commercialization. They usually work with faculty, scholars, staff to commercialize their research, and license it. There's an office of innovation and engagement. But one of the advantages I had was being able to pick, work really across all these different offices, which has been amazing. And I think one of my biggest finds was that East Carolina University has a huge footprint. So ECU supports, I think, about 40 something counties in Eastern North Carolina in a lot of different ways. So it was just an eye opener working on a lot of different projects. So I work with everybody. There is no one thing I do. I've worked across, licensing and commercialization. I've worked with the Office of Research Development. I've worked with innovation and engagement. There is a workforce development office, So it's been a lot of learning, and it's my happy place. Actually, one of the things I hope to do is to still keep working with them through my PhD doctoral program too. But yeah, it's been a lot of learning.
That's a lot of work you have been doing and involved into so many different things. My next question to you is, what is the one piece of advice you would like to give that someone would give you when you initially came here?
That's an interesting question, actually. I'd have to think about that, but I know I'd say, I mean, just being able to stay curious, is something. It might sound cheesy, but being able to stay curious has always been helpful for me. And one other advice I had gotten from one of my mentors, Dr. Ziga, had been to think of every opportunity as an audition of sorts. So when I get put into a team or given a task or whatever, having that mindset that this could open the doors to something else, always helps inform how I deal with the situation in the moment. So being able to stay curious, being able to learn, being able to ask questions, being able to, think about every experience as an audition of sorts. Someone is watching, you never know who's watching. Putting your best foot forward, doing the best you can. The things like that have really helped me. I mean, well, you said one, but I guess you can put all that together into one. But yeah, it's been really helpful to me.
So, you have two degrees, as we spoke previously, Master in Science of Geography and Master in Public Administration. So, what are the job opportunities here in USA, and to what range of salary we can get paid here?
Honestly, there is. It's interesting because I mean, it's different. So different in the sense of if I was American, it's different. The opportunities you're exposed to would be different. But being international, you know, it's I can't even do entry level stuff. But I feel like with a master's degree, like there are folks in our office who are like research analysts. I, yeah, I think that's like, well, they have a doctorate anyway, but a research analyst job or would be a good starting point. I've seen people be like a director of something, especially with the MPA, because one of the things, one of the skills MPA gives you is the ability to manage people or manage processes and all of those things. So I've seen people work as a director of planning or a director of whatever, or a director of policy, something, something, something. And as far as the range, an MPA is supposed to, in an ideal world, is supposed to, pay you decent, not, top or anything. And in geography too, especially if you have GIS skills, you can do so much more with it. But I don't know if you've heard, they say the job market in the US is, very low at the point. So some of those assumptions might not hold in the present job market anyway. But yeah, somewhere in the middle.
So, job market in US is not good at this point of time.
That's what I heard. I don't know if you've heard. Yeah, that's really what everybody's saying too, especially post COVID. Yeah.
So, being a trader, I am a stock trader. So, I was curious to know that being a trader, like, you have examined cryptocurrency and its impact on communities. So, what made you and your interest spark in this particular topic?
So that's interesting, and part of it is philosophical too. So one, I was curious, and two was, I've always been, I've always felt like I'm the underdog. So I'm always on the side of the underdog in any fight. So when I came here, I had a couple options as far as what project to undertake for my thesis. So one of the options was what is considered the 10th Street Connector Bridge. You see the bridge that goes up and down the hospital on 10th Street? There was a neighborhood that used to be the black neighborhood that got displaced to build that thing there. So there is a whole plethora of data around that whole situation. And then the other one was, what I ended up doing. I think in between 2020 and 2022, there was a crypto mining facility that was supposed to set up outside Greenville in a place called Belvoir. So Belvoir is a primarily black and Hispanic community, low income, north of the river. So this cryptocurrency facility wanted to set up, but for any company to be able to set up in a place, they needed to, zoning is a big deal. You need to zone the land, to be able to put something there. So the area was zoned as an agricultural area. But they went behind power, they went behind and got a special use permit, which is sort of like a stopgap thing where you can give a special use permit to put something that's not originally zoned in a place. So they did all that and they were trying to do it. Interestingly, Belvoir has an elementary school, which is very attractive to some of the upper class people in the area because the elementary school has a dual Spanish and English program, which a lot of their kids attend. So that's important to know because it turned out that it was the parents of those kids that took up the fight against the establishment. So if it was up to the actual residents, they wouldn't have been able to fight. So a couple of their challenges were at the time cryptocurrency is an emerging technology. I think it still is, and people didn't know exactly all the different effects it would have. But some of the concerns in the immediate were things like the noise, because to be able to mine crypto, and I think you would know, you need supercomputers doing all these complex
You need to
calculations.
hold place for
Right.
that. Yeah.
So those supercomputers produce a lot of sound in and of itself, and then you need cooling fans to cool them, and then those fans need water and electricity, and then the supercomputers need electricity too. So usually, typically, crypto mining operations would find places that have cheap land and cheap electricity and cheap, a lot of those utilities. So rural areas are usually an attraction to them. So they wanted to do that, and when you think about it, it was in doing that I found out about environmental justice, in doing that research, where you find out that operations or facilities that are not healthy for the environment or for humans are usually sited in low income neighborhoods. And this is one of the things people don't think about. So think about even the crypto thing, for instance, you won't have it sited in a rich neighborhood because the folks over there have power, they have money. But traditionally, it's always been set up in places where they are already burdened by a lot of inequalities. So there was the issue of noise, which interestingly, the ladies, the women, the mothers of the kids in the elementary school that fought against this, they had a whole thing where they went out in the Midwest of the United States and took a recording of a place where they sited the crypto facility. I tell you, this sounds like having a jet engine constantly on with the buzz. Oh, I mean, it kills wildlife. It's bad for the wildlife. It's bad for the residents. It craters down the value of the buildings there. A lot of things. And one of the other things too was the processes, because the way the rules are written, the companies needed to do certain things. You needed to inform the area, the people in the area. You needed to put signs. You needed to have meetings. So they didn't do, you know, those things adequately. So remember when I told you the community was predominantly Hispanic and black? They didn't have any signs in Spanish, for them. So it was as if they were just barely trying to follow the law. It was a huge, huge fight. It was a really huge fight. I mean, some of the ladies I had interviewed, some of my interview subjects, they were crying, talking to me because it was such a very emotional experience for them. So it was a David versus Goliath sort of thing. And the utility company here was also involved because they were going to make a ton of money from selling all that electricity, to which is the attraction too. So eventually the whole thing didn't hold, thankfully, and in less than a year, the cryptocurrency company filed bankruptcy. So imagine if they had cited that thing there, and then a year
That would be
later,
a great loss.
so it's a lot of things. But I think one of the things too I learned from that experience was how much, and I think it's also something that started me down on in environmental economic development, because basically economic development is trying to improve the quality of life of people in an area by attracting industries or jobs or amenities and all of those things. So that cryptocurrency facility was supposed to be economic development, but then it shouldn't be at the detriment of the people who live there. So I think it's a huge challenge in economic development, finding that balance between trying to improve the quality of life and increasing the tax base of the area versus, the actual people you're trying to help. So it was a really,
It's hurting the human beings as well.
I mean, some people didn't think like that. Some people thought, there are people who only see dollar signs. It was interesting too to talk to, because I had to speak to folks across the different constituencies. I actually spoke to a professor of physics who was called in as an expert witness, during one of the board of commissioner meetings, who explained to me, and I didn't know this at the time, that sound travels differently in the summer versus how it travels in the winter. You see what I mean? And then there is also the thing around the elevation of the place. So it was just going to be, and he was very objective. Actually, one of the really objective folks I spoke with, he mentioned that there were measures the company could have taken to take care of the noise aspect of things, but that was going to cost more money. And then these companies are always for profits with the least amount of spending. So there wasn't that incentive to try and go all out of their way to try and, take care of the noise aspect of things too. But yeah, it was a whole, I could speak for days about, that experience. So yeah.
So, are they still trying to raise the funds to continue
Well,
this?
thankfully, not. But I mean, in the time I've been here, I've heard about solar farms and all of those things, which is a whole different thing too. But as far as the crypto mining facility, no. I think the latest one people have been hearing in the news has been data centers, and with AI, which is interesting too, because one of the things I learned again from that experience was that, we think about the internet, chances are whoever is going to watch this podcast is going to see it on YouTube or social media or anywhere. But people don't realize that these things are still tied to a place, because there are huge servers that make it possible for people, for you to log into the internet, or trade your stocks, or do AI, chat GPT, or cloud, or whatever. People don't sort of think about those things. They think it's all in the air, but there are huge servers that are in a place physically. So no matter how much you talk about whether it's with the internet or artificial intelligence or whatever, it's still tied to place. Even with cloud computing, those servers are still in a place physically. You see what I mean? So it was, yeah.
When you are right, when we talk about cryptocurrency, there are a lot of people, they don't know. I mean, everyone knows it is a digital currency.
Right.
So they don't know where it is, how it is mined. And way before, back then in India, when I was learning about cryptocurrency, so my dad is into stock markets from past 20 years. So yeah, that's why I came into the markets, and he knew everything about the cryptocurrency mining, and then he taught me that how the mining is done and everything. And then I got into the detail analysis of cryptocurrency, and I found it very interesting. But I found that always when we want to start a mining, we have a proper plan, but we will be having 100% issue in executing them.
Oh yeah.
So whoever executes is the master.
Yes,
That is the
yes,
problem when
yes.
everything is arising, because
Yes.
we have proper plans, proper
Right.
roadmap.
Right.
We may even have investments,
Right.
but one thing while executing will just destroy everything.
Yes.
So execution is something.
Yes. And I think, following up from that, I think again, even with Amazon is the big thing, whether it's Amazon Web Services or, the usual thing you do. When people think about the internet or stocks or crypto or whatever, they think, oh, everything is going in the cloud. Fine, it's in the cloud, but those cloud is servers, and there are massive server farms that have to be put in a place. So no matter how much you try to go digital, it's still tied to place. It still has a physical place on ground somewhere around the world, but people don't make that connection. You see, so which is interesting because as the need for AI increases or the need for technology increases, you would need bigger servers, you would need massive, which is what Nvidia is doing with the super high GPUs and all of those things. You still need more land. You can't take away land from the
Nothing
equation.
is enough.
So you can't build them in the sky. It has to be on land.
Land itself.
So it's been such an experience, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this valuable information from the right person.
Thank you.
Right. I heard that you are host at Pit Perspectives. So,
Yes.
what is Pit Perspectives?
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about that. We've been doing this for over a year now. Initially, the whole thing started with, coming here. So Greenville is North Carolina is the first place I'm living outside Nigeria. So I came here thinking it snows everywhere in the US, but we haven't even had snow for a long time here. I came here thinking I'd see skyscrapers everywhere, like in the movies. But this is considered a village, in by US standards. I grew up in a bigger city than here, so it's been a lot of learning. So, and people didn't realize how many different countries or different cultures ECU even heard. So ECU has students from up to 69 countries. I've met people here who have only had their countries from like the World Cup, right? Even the greater Greenville Pitt County area has folks from more than 100 different countries. So we wanted to have an opportunity to help people from here learn more about all these different cultures around the world and also help us learn more about the culture of this place, which has been a lot of learning because I had worked with a county commissioner, a Pitt County commissioner who was the chair of the board of commissioners at the time. So that's where the Pitt comes from, Pitt County, Pitt perspectives. So that was the initial thing. But interestingly, the actual name comes from a honors project.
On us.
Honors. You know how they have the honors college? The kids who are like on a
Honors.
scholarship. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so there was an honors project some kids did. When I first got here, it was a podcast. It was called The Pit Perspective. So what they had done was to, just like you're trying to do, they brought minority voices and gave them a platform. They spoke to like, some, black county commissioner, some rabbi of the Jewish synagogue, all those minority voices. And when they graduated, that sort of fell apart, So I figured I liked the idea, I liked the name. So instead of making it a minority thing, I thought to expand, to broaden the scope and then take out the pit, and then it became pit perspectives. So that was what we started out with. But in doing that, we realized too that we had an even global reach because on our show on the radio we are live on Awesome Radio 107.5 FM and 1570 AM in Greenville. We also been broadcast out in New Bern on 102.3 FM and 1450 AM. And obviously we are on the internet. We have a website now, www.pitperspectives.com. So we have call-ins because it's a call-in show on Saturday mornings. We have call-in shows from around the world. Actually, I looked at the website and I'm seeing hits from like China and Europe and all of those places, which is and India too, which is interesting. So we figured, especially with being in economic development, this is another angle to it. Now, with being in economic development, when economic developers think about infrastructure, they think about utilities, they think about land, because land is
Yeah, it's
primary.
important. Yeah.
They think about land, they think about roads, because those are the things you need to attract industries to a place. But I was thinking, what if you could leverage the unique culture of a place as infrastructure? Because think about it, with ECU and this area having all these different people from different countries, they bring a huge cultural capital. I mean, as being Indians, India is full of culture. You all bring all that culture here. You see what I mean? There's a whole cricket league going on. It's a huge culture. You see what I mean? But what if you could leverage all that as infrastructure? What if you attract an Indian company to come here with having a league like that and how much that's a culture? They will be rest assured that whoever is moving from India to come help set up this company is going to have a good experience because there is a community they would be a part of. You see all of those different things, So there is also the economic development storytelling angle to it. There's also the cultural placemaking, the idea that if you are in a place, you need to feel like your needs are being met. There are people who move to Greenville and they move out because they feel like they can't find their place here. So part of what we try to do is to break down those barriers because there are all these different things going on, but they are siloed. You see what I mean? So part of our goal is to sort of break down those barriers and
So basically, it's like preserving the culture and adding a monetary.
whole lot of it's a number of different things and it's been exciting too. I mean, we have callings from outside the US, we have engagements. We actually just started what we call Pit Perspectives Pro Max, doing like a pre-recorded studio recording of the thing in addition to the radio show because we're on the radio and then we upload the video and the audio as a podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you get your podcasts. But it's been an amazing experience. And the best part for me is getting into the PhD in the fall. It's a component of my dissertation research. So it makes it even more exciting because now we are broadening the scope, not just Pitt County to Eastern North Carolina. So the goal is for us to be a global stage for local stories. So amazing stuff. Yes, it is exciting too.
So you're talking about radio. So you're a radio host, and being a radio host, what do you feel that this local radio podcast, how much scope they have in today's world of social media?
So that's a very interesting question. I grew up on radio, right? I grew up on radio. In fact, I still remember jingles from growing up on radio. Stereo 88.1 FM, station born to lead. I mean, I could give you like 10 jingles, but it was such a huge culture. I remember my grandfather had an AM radio. He would dial into the Voice of America. Then back in the village, that's when I had names like Yasser Arafat, Ariel Sharon in the Middle East. That's when I realized that whatever is happening in the Middle East did not start today. It's been on almost forever, right? So, growing up in that, I realized how much of a culture radio was, especially in reaching people. But as technology has evolved, sometimes people feel like, oh, radio doesn't have cause. I mean, everybody has phones now, but Eastern North Carolina is rural. You wouldn't believe this. There are parts of Pitt County. If you go down 10th Street and keep going, you get to a point where you lose cell service on your phone. You see what I mean? So, but if you tell someone, you see what I mean? If you tell someone elsewhere that there are parts of America where you don't even have phone network, they'll think it's a lie. Cause when you think of our America, you think everywhere is connected, right? So it's exciting. There are a lot of listenership with radio. And my thinking is if you pair that radio with social media, with modern broadcast tools, podcast and all. I mean, you can make something way exciting out of it. You see what I mean? So that's my belief. And over the summer, I've been interning with Pirate Radio, which has been around here since 2003. Pirate Radio says it's the voice of the pirate nation. So they do a lot of sports talk, for ECU Athletics and the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are the hockey team out in I think Raleigh. So it's a whole experience. And there are a lot to answer your question. There are a lot of listeners for radio, so it's something I'm passionate about. Then when you add it with the TV and the podcast and all, you have a whole thing to deal with.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you have also worked into sports club, right? You have worked with athletes and the United Fan Club of Greenville. So what are the things that you faced initially? Like what is the criteria to join this?
Honestly, it's just about staying curious, and I guess one of my advice, I guess, would be from your earlier question would be that honestly, you don't even need permission to do a lot of things.
How does this help in building community?
It's in and of itself, it's community. I don't know about you, but soccer is such a big community where we grew up. And I think yesterday they have this four country tournament that just concluded yesterday, Unity Cup. Actually, India played soccer with Jamaica, but they lost to Jamaica 2-0. And then Nigeria obviously won Jamaica to lift the cup. But soccer is a big deal. We grew up around soccer. It's such a huge but I mean, in my opinion, nothing unites a community in the way soccer does. Soccer teaches you teamwork, soccer teaches you belief, it teaches you dream, it teaches you hard work, all of those things. And for a city like this, for a place like this that's still rural, that's still trying to grow, and all, and has a lot of internationals, it could be an avenue to, bring people together in a way nothing else does. So that's one of the reasons. And imagine moving here from halfway across the world. It was one of those things where I didn't have to learn. So it was a natural, cause think of it, you need to have a strong sense of place. For you to feel comfortable in a place, you need to feel like all the things you need to survive are here. You need to, for instance, be able to have access to Indian food, because food is culture. So being able to have soccer was a big deal for me. So I got involved, we cheered for the team, and the team obviously was made up of folks from all around the world. So it was a natural, engagement. So I think in 2023, I was nominated and I eventually won the supporter of the season for the entire US for grassroots community soccer, yeah, which was a whole, yeah, it was a whole thing, So I'm the club's ambassador, I'm the number one fan, it's been such an experience. Sometimes it's heartbreaking because we lost yesterday, for instance, but then that's what makes life interesting. You win some, you lose some, but I hope we win more than we lose.
But we make sure that we keep learning.
Right. So it's been such an experience, and it's also brought people together in a way nothing else does, because you don't need to have great, people skills to cheer for soccer. It's this one community where you can be awkward and still find your place, in it too.
So you're from Nigeria. So tell me something about Nigeria.
Nigeria is the best country in the world to begin with, and the worst country in the world too. I'm kidding. Nigeria is huge. Nigeria has one of the most hardworking people in the world. I mean, if you go to a country in the world, anywhere in the world, and you don't see a Nigerian, please run away, because there is nothing there. If you want to find an opportunity anywhere, find where there is a Nigerian. I'm sure there are a ton of Nigerians in India. Nigeria is the seventh most populous in the world. I'm sure way behind India. Nigeria is the most populous in Africa. Nigerians are one of the highest achieving immigrant populations in the world. Nigerians are, you can't hold us down. Nigeria is not perfect, but I mean, very hardworking. I mean, I'm very proud to be Nigerian, regardless of all its failings, too. So, Nigeria has over 250 different ethnic groups. Nigeria has over 500 different languages, so it's a whole cultural melting pot. Yes, it is. I mean, there are some Nigerians here at ECU that I don't even speak the same first language with, even though we're from Nigeria. Right. So, yeah, it's exciting.
That's nice to hear about Nigeria. So coming up to now, we'll have some a rapid fire round. So
Do it.
okay, so tell me something like what's your favorite game?
Oh, soccer, obviously. Yeah, soccer is my favorite game.
Tell me the name of the book that influenced you.
I'd say David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. So David and Goliath basically was the Bible story of David and Goliath, but just crash summary. It zoomed in on the story and found out that David was really skilled with the sling, and with how much skill he had, objectively, he could beat Goliath any day. But people would see the size and think, "Oh, this guy is." So he basically talked about the limit of what we consider advantages in the world. That whatever advantage you have is a bell curve. It's useful to a point, after which it becomes useless. But what it did for me was empower me to think about myself and what skills I had in the moment and how I could leverage that skill for maximum impact. And it changed my life in a lot of different ways, yeah.
One advice you would like to give to the young professional students and the people who are pursuing their education?
Hey man, stay curious. Stay curious. That's, and it's one of the things that fascinated me about here. Like, if you had to just think about what you're putting on, if you had to read about the history of beads or whatever this material you have on yourself is, you could fill this whole room with books on this. If you had to read about clothing, you feel this hope. I mean, there is knowledge, tons of knowledge everywhere. That's what I'm driving at. And we don't even scratch the surface, no matter how much you know. So, what that means is, for me, it gives you some humility to realize that there is so much to be known. So, it gives you a lot of humility. So, no matter how much you think you know, there is still so much knowledge out there. So, I think that gives me a lot of intellectual humility. So, and it comes from staying curious and being able to learn, So,
If you
yeah.
have the art to be, kind and generous, you can achieve anything.
Right, that's too.
So that is what we makes a man
Yes.
who he is.
Yes.
So you are indeed that,
I hope
because
so.
you are
Thank you.
generous, you are kind. We have seen you to connect with so many number of people in a good and kind way. You are always ready to help everyone,
Thank you.
and that is what makes you special.
Thank you.
So, how long you have been in US?
Oh, it's been getting on 4 years now.
So you did you go back to Nigeria?
Nah, I wish. I wish. Not yet. But hopefully, eventually.
You are here?
Yes, straight 4 years I'm here.
It's a long time.
It is. I miss Nigeria, but
And are you planning to go back to your country?
I hope I can soon. Yeah, I hope. I hope I can.
So we hope that you can go
Yes,
and
I
come
hope.
back.
Yeah, because I miss. Yes, I miss Nigeria.
Because yeah, we do miss immigrants do miss their home countries.
That's true.
So where do you see yourself in coming 5 years?
I mean, oof, married with kids, I guess. Being able to do work that I love, meaningful work. I see myself as a doer. So think about a scholar practitioner type of stuff. And like I said earlier, I like to play to my strengths. I like to follow my curiosities and not having to worry about money too. Being in a good enough position that I don't have to worry about money. Actually, the Chancellor's dad, who is a friend, was asking me to, what kind of job, and I said a job where I'd like to talk to people and not have to worry about money, yeah. But yes, being at the top of my field, being able to do work that's impactful, it's something I really care about, and I hope and I think, God on my side, with enough hard work, that would be possible.
You're doing your PhD.
Yes,
So how much do you get paid for your PhD here in Greenville?
I don't even know.
You don't know?
Because I'm starting in the fall.
Okay.
But I don't think it's too much. It's interesting. I'm coming to the same department as your husband, so maybe your husband would answer that question for me, But yes, yeah, yeah.
So is there anything that you can predict that what a researcher or a PhD person gets paid?
Honestly, it's difficult because I haven't been there, but I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's enough even to begin with. I don't think it's enough because, you know, researchers are, you are not like a professor and then you are not like a student. So it's like cheap labor of something, something they pay you just enough for you to not be a student, but way below being an actual, teaching instructor or professor or something like that. But yeah.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights. We really had a good conversation, and we got to know so much information about so many different fields.
You too. I'm excited. So this is episode 1. Yeah, so yes, I'd like to be back on episode 100. So we'll reflect on this too. So I'm excited to see how this grows and I think it's going to be great.
Thank you so much. So, if anyone wants to connect you to work with you, how should they contact you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on social media at Victor Ihuka. And I mean, you can listen to us on Awesome Radio. You can listen to us at peakperspectives.com. You can also search us out on on social media. And I mean, hey, I'm always helpful. I'm always excited to help people because I've been helped a lot too. So yes, feel free to reach out if you need help with anything.
Thank you so much, Victor.